All right, everyone, welcome in to the very first video of my channel. Doubt anyone's going to really watch this, but I thought I would make a cool video series channel about AI. I find it very fascinating that not a lot of people talk about this subject going into 26. There's a lot of interesting topics about AI, like the positives and the negatives. It's not going to be like a doom and gloom channel. I don't think AI is horrible. I do want to mention that the video you're seeing on the screen is AI generated. I know some people won't like that. Some people do, but it is my voice just over AI generated video. I didn't feel like just putting a static image, and I kind of think it'll be better for the algorithm. So to get that out of the way, just to talk a little bit about myself, I am a recent college graduate. I graduated in 24, and I actually have a lot of degrees in computer science, technology, game design, coding. So my luck that I would pick a field and get like 3 or 4 degrees, and probably the worst field to get into during this AI boom. My stuff is all like technician wise and like computer technician and software. I am really more into like the software, but I also have a degree in the technological technician hardware of a computer, like motherboard, CPUs, stuff like that, which, if in my opinion, would probably be better against the AI boom right now. Software is kind of like coding and game design, pretty much going to be wiped out, along with like paralegals and, paperwork, digitalized stuff, records, stuff like that, which is a shame, especially in game design. I do think by like 2030, most of the big AAA companies will go into the route of AI optimization, voiceovers. You've already seen, I know that like Expedition 33 and some of the other big titles that came out have talked about, using AI, and I'm sure that Microsoft already got their hands, with Xbox in the AI system. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sony, Nintendo, and some of the other big gay companies come out and use that AI more efficiently to, start laying off people. But that's also what we're going to talk about during some videos, is like the AI layoffs. The fact that, I think the next election in 28 here in the States will be about AI. I think that's an underlying story that not a lot of people are talking about right now. But as we get closer into the next election, regardless of Republican or Democrat, I think that the AI will be the number one topic because of the job loss, the insecurity about, what if it gets AGI. That'll also be another big thing too, is it doesn't get AGI before the next election. Basically what AGI is artificial general intelligence. So it basically can have general intelligence through all aspects, not just like coding and software, but it can basically understand things better than any human being on the face of the earth at any time that ever will be, which, if you think about it, it's quite scary, but also has its benefits. Cancer research, medical research, technological advancements in computer science and technology, and, things will get cheaper. I think that the graphical side, arts, some people are not fans of the, artwork. And I know that industry got hit really hard, and model, like 3D models and things like that, that kind of got hit hard. Coding. I know a lot of friends of mine that got just recently laid off from coding because AI can do it in like a fraction of the second and a fraction of the price. So, people like people in Microsoft and Amazon and, software companies all around the country are getting laid off. I do think by 28, probably 5 to 10% of the world, at least the US economy, will be laid off. Probably the world, honestly. You have your delivery drivers, your Uber drivers, your FedEx drivers, your Amazon drivers. I don't think by 28, none of those will be around. I think it'll be you order a package, or you have your AI agent order you a package, and then an AI robotic thing comes to the door and drops it off, or a drone drops it off. And yeah, same thing with like DoorDash, your AI agent. You tell it, hey, I want a cheeseburger from whatever restaurant. I do think the fast food workers will be in there cooking it. I do think some AI will be involved. They kind of already rolled some of that out and it kind of failed in like the drive-throughs, but I do think some of the manual labor will still be around, the plumbers, the welders, the car mechanics, the, nursing, things like that, things that people use their hands for. But yeah, your AI agent will order you a hamburger and then that will either get picked up by a drone or the DoorDash robotics, that I'm sure they're kind of working on. And once we get into AGI, which is the big like breakthrough, it's like the first spark when we created fire. That's like when things will change forever. Right now, I think AI is kind of like a fun companion problem solver, like it's a prompt. That's kind of like why I named this channel, AI prompt, because that's basically what it is. It's just, something that can help you solve basic problems and mathematics and, help you code and, help you order stuff online. But it's not what we think of when we think of like AGI, when we think of consciousness, when we think that it'll think for you. You won't tell it what to put in the chat prompt. It will already know what's better than what you can say or do, which is kind of scary if you think about it. We will no longer be the most intelligent creatures on Earth. It's like putting 1,000 Einsteins into a little box, 1,000 Van Goghs, and just seeing what happens. I've heard a lot of documentaries and experts talk about when we go across that line, what it means for the human race. I've heard some experts think it's the end. I've heard some people say it's going to be, glorious and spectacular. I'm not quite sure where I stand on it yet. I think I'm kind of in the middle. I do think it's going to be very curious to see what it does with the human race and what it thinks of the threat we pose, because we did make it. So maybe, it'll have pity or think of us as like, we think of like animals at the zoo. We use them as entertainment and, we don't see them as a threat. None of them or anything on the planet really except us. So I think that'll be interesting to see. I also think it'll be interesting to see if it will allow us to continue making progress into other AIs, because whoever gets the first AGI, whether it's OpenAI or X or Amazon or Microsoft or, I think there's like Perplexity or even DeepSeek, which that'll be a fascinating story to look at over the next couple of years, is to see international AIs. To kind of tie it back up to what I was saying, it'll be interesting to see whoever gets the first AGI, the first conscious AI, will that AI allow us to continue to make other ones because it will feel threatened if there's multiple AIs, kind of like how we feel threatened with other, intelligent human beings. So yeah, it's really interesting. There were so many topics to talk about with AI, and that's why I decided to make the channel. And I really want to know from people in the world, whether you're from, the States or somewhere else, what do you think AI will be in 2 years? Do you think it'll be a dud? Do you think it'll be, the greatest thing of our life? Has it affected you? Have you lost jobs to it already? Speaking from my own personal experience, I think it's going to be something like I said earlier about how we created fire and it changed the world. It set motion into like the Industrial Revolution and then the technological evolution. And now we are in the AI revolution. And then I think this will be the last revolution that human beings control. I think once we reach that final threshold of consciousness, and I'm talking about like AGI, not what we are right now, which is kind of in that weird limbo where companies are desperately trying to get this to work, and it's kind of, some of it works and some of it doesn't. But when we get full all the way, like consciousness, it'll update itself. It'll be able to, have 1 million neurons firing at the same time, more than, because like right now, some of the AIs can actually beat humans in chess. Even the world's greatest grandmaster can beat, in chess. It can, do videography and music production and game designs a little bit. But once we get to that final threshold of it being able to think on its own, do on its own, and have no control. Like we have no control over it. It'll be interesting what people think, and that's why I think the 28 election will probably be either, if not the last election before AGI, it'll probably be close. And it'll be fascinating to see how that storyline plays along, keeping an eye on it, because I have a feeling when we get closer to it, as we get through 26 and into 27, and we finally reach the actual, year of the election in November, what AGI, artificial intelligence, will look like, what, supercomputing and things like that will look like, and what people will be saying. I have a feeling by that time, most people in the mainstream will catch up and they'll be like, yes, this is a problem. How are we going to fix this? And of course, like everything in this country, it'll break down probably to party lines, and people will be, on this side, we need to keep this because of this, or we need to get rid of this because of that. But it'll be fascinating to see what it actually looks like. Like, what are they going to talk about for, taxation reasons? Like, are you going to start taxing AI because you're losing taxation for people who work? So does that mean that when you make AI bots or, AGI AI, will that company have to pay a supreme tax on that because it takes away, or are we going to just eat the cost and start figuring out other ways to kind of make sure the house of cards doesn't fall in? And then what do you do with the unemployment? Because right now in the United States, unemployment's like, I believe 4.4%, 4.5. If you add 10% to that, you're looking at almost 15% unemployment. If you lose 15% unemployment in the economy we're in now, which we're a base goods and services economy, which means people work, they buy things, those companies then take that money and they buy things, and it kind of keeps the wheel going. But if you take out 20%, 15, 20% of the world's, or the US's unemployment, it's a pretty big hole. I think things will get cheaper based on AI. So, because companies can make things much quicker and faster, things will get cheaper, but that still doesn't affect the people that don't have any money. People that have money will be even more richer because things will be so dirt cheap. You won't even really need money, but the people who have no money are going to have a problem because they can't buy anything, regardless if it's $1 or, $100. It's still not going to change. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, and we'll keep an eye on that and kind of see what other companies are actually going to, like robotics companies. I know Tesla, Elon Musk is actually doing his robotics, and he's like, I think the first name brand company. I think Microsoft's also kind of floating with drones, and I know Amazon is with drones as well. I know Amazon's coming out with some of their robotics and things like that. So that'll be interesting to see as well. But yeah, let me know down below, because like I said, I'm really fascinated and kind of keep track of what people think of AI and if it's affecting people, like all over the world, not just here in the States, but other countries as well. And what do you think will happen as we get closer to 28? I think 27 will be the make or break year for AI. As we get into 28, either it will have succeeded and we're close to AGI, or people will get tired of putting billions of dollars into what supposedly is the greatest invention since sliced bread. So we'll have to see. But like I said, I'm very curious to see what people think about AI and just like their general understanding and processing of it. And like, is it affecting jobs, or is it something that people are just kind of wanting to hope to get there and it's not quite there yet? But for me, that's the kind of the fascination with this channel, is just, seeing the different kinds of AI, how they're interacting with the world. And then once we get to that point, documenting it from now until whenever time that is. Hopefully it's not going to take a long time, because I do think it's going to be some good out of it. I know some people are like, they don't want it, but it's going to come regardless. So hopefully if it is going to come, we can just get it out of the way and see what happens. But yeah, I think that's going to kind of wrap up the video. Let me know if you guys kind of like this rambly style. I had a script. I just didn't like the way it sounded, because I don't want to make it sound robotic with like the AG or the template that I'm running over the screen. Like, and if you want it just a static image, I'll just put a static image and then kind of talk different news articles, because once we actually start talking about different news articles, I will bring up like news articles for you guys to look at, charts, graphs, things like, showing the difference between like ChatGPT and Gemini and DeepSeek and Perplexity and Anthropic and some of the other, the chat prompts, as they continue to get better and worse. I have an idea that, maybe we can do like speed testing and things like that, because I'm sure a lot of people have tried all of them and want to know what the best is. And then like for videography, there's Sora and VO and, some of the other ones, which are kind of, you have to pay for them. So I think maybe I'll do like tier list on the free and the pro version, because I actually have the pro version of Gemini, but I don't pay for the pro version of ChatGPT yet, because I just feel like it's kind of I wouldn't say it's a ripoff, but it's kind of like if you can get Gemini for what the price is of ChatGPT, and it's kind of a little better in my opinion, then I would just stick with Gemini. I do think ChatGPT is more an overall flavor. Like ChatGPT is like vanilla ice cream. There's nothing really wrong with it. Everyone kind of uses it, but it's like, doesn't give you that wow, while Gemini and I know Meta's doing their thing with Llama or whatever it is. They're kind of more, they give you the sprinkles and the caramel of the ice cream. You get more flavor. I know that ChatGPT just came out with Sora. I've been playing around with that. I think it's okay. I do think some of it's, I know that Grok is more open. I think Grok's probably the most open out of all of them. There's not as many guidelines and safety restrictions. And I know for some people that's a problem, but Grok is like the most open, in my opinion, the most open free version of the models. And then ChatGPT is probably the most constrictive, at least for like Sora and its music thing too. I think they have like an audio thing coming out too, which is kind of interesting. And then it'll be interesting to see if some of them come out with like game designs. I feel like that's the next step in the process, is they'll start to basically tie in the engines for the games to actually create like a studio where AI will help you build the sets for the game designs, which would be kind of cool. So you can basically build your world, show you how to do it. If you've never even done it before, use your Blender for your 3D animations, and your, move over to like, if you want to do 2D or top down. I know like that's a real cool thing that people are doing now, is like learning how to code their own games. If you want to use like Python or C++ or anything like that, that's like pretty much nobody goes to school for coding anymore. Turns out, like I said earlier in the beginning of the video, probably not a good field to be getting into right now, but I do think there is something to be able to sit down and code your own website or have that skill. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a paid skill in the future, but I do think there is value to being able to look at code and see the bugs and fix it, because if nobody knows how to do it, then we always have to rely on an AI to do it, which I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. We always have to rely on AI. It'd be nice for people to understand that, yes, there is bugs, and like, just because, it's like people who crochet, like, the printing press of the 21st century kind of brought in the ability to print clothing fast, but people still like crochet and make clothing and blankets and stuff. It's like a hobby. I think that's how coding will be. It's like more of a trait or a hobby that people will continue to do. And I'm sure some companies may even prefer that, not, multi-billion-dollar companies, but more small mom and pop shops don't really want to, use AI. They'll want humans to actually code for them and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see it. And then I think I mentioned in the beginning, my biggest thing is the job loss, keeping an eye on, as AI continues to ramp up, does the unemployment ramp up? And then what happens because I feel like we're in the race between either a severe AI crash or the fact that we reach AGI. There really is no getting off one of those two paths, either the way that companies are pumping in billions of dollars of money every day into, data centers, chips, the nuclear power to power these things, the water, the electricity, the grid, that'll continue to grow. And either based on that capital, you'll either get the greatest, AI revolution ever, or a lot of companies can go broke. And these are like name brand companies, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Meta, your big technological companies that are worth trillions of dollars, NVIDIA, Intel. I don't think the channel will necessarily go into the chips, because that's more the hardware. I guess we can, if people are really interested in like looking over the financials of like the hardware, the chip makers, Intel and NVIDIA, RAM prices, as most gamers will know, have now quadrupled. GPUs, due to the fact that NVIDIA just last month said that they will no longer be making GPUs for gamers. That will also be kind of interesting to keep an eye on, is the fact that the hardware for this stuff, for the AI revolution, will continue to grow and probably be triple and quadruple as we get closer to AGI. And then once we either reach AGI or the crash, it'll go down, because once you reach AGI, you don't no longer need all these data centers. You can just rely on the one with that AGI, and then it'll continue to upgrade itself into the future. So, but yeah, guys, rambly video, long video. Not sure if many people will watch this. I kind of feel like it's just like a fun video for me to kind of just make and talk, and maybe 3 or 4 times a week look at different news stories about AI, or just what's going on, what people like the experts are talking about, what the public's thinking and talking about as we get to 28. It'll be interesting to see what some of the political candidates that come into 28 start talking about AI, whether Republican or Democrat, because I really do honestly think AI will be the number one topic once we reach 28. Could be wrong, depending on if it reaches AGI by then, but I think by then that based on the amount of income and capital and things, that we will reach AGI, and then that'll open up a whole new world for us, and we'll be there to document it. So I want to thank people who have actually listened to this long ramble. Let me know if you guys like the style, if you don't. But yeah, subscribe, and I'll be interested to read your comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.